All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to our Why Try webinar today. Um, Super excited to this. I'm really excited for this one. We're gonna dig into modeling a little bit about how we might teach the skills of resilience. And I've got a couple of real experts when it comes to teaching the skills of resilience that are slotted to join us today. Now, there's been a lot of crazy stuff happening. People's schedules get tight, and so we for sure have two of our three. I'm hoping we'll have our third here as well. But you know what? As educators, we learn to adapt. So we're gonna make it work. All right. Well, for those that are new, my name's Jason Johnson. I represent the Why Try organization. I will be hosting and moderating this panel for our webinar today. And our subject that we're going to be addressing is really looking at great examples of educators and how they teach the skills of resilience. And we're going to be modeling some of the Why Try resources today. But I'm really thrilled because we've got some exceptional educators on today to help us out with this. For those that haven't joined us for a webinar before, I know some of you are new to this. We've been doing these since 2020, I think. Here's what I know about when I started this, just for a little callback. So Ashley is like, I think this is number 6 or 17. I don't know how many times you've been on, but I remember all the way back, one of our very first ones, you were still pregnant when we did one of our first webinars. So we've been doing these for a minute, but we started these in 2020. I've done about 75 of them. And this is a way for us to stay connected to this incredible community of educators and mental health professionals, et cetera, we're all just trying to help support these kiddos better. And we're dealing with, real unprecedented times in education right now. It's really tough. And these webinars have been a great way to have, I think, some really important, honest discussions around topics and ideas that have been really helpful. So we didn't know where this was going to go when we started, but it's kind of taken on a life of its own. And the webinar community has been really fun. It's always fun seeing repeat names in the chat and have everybody on, which takes me to my next point. Before we make our introductions, just a reminder, we're on a webinar link, which means the only people with cameras and mics on are us as panelists. And so for the rest of you as attendees, the chat is the best way to engage. And so we hope you'll be active in the chat. I would invite you, if you haven't yet, to adjust your chat settings so that when you type a comment in the chat, you're sharing it with everyone. The way you adjust your chat setting is right above where you type your message. It says to, and then there's a little drop-down menu, and that should say everyone. If it says to hosts and panelists, when you send a message, the only people that can see it are the panelists. And so if you're willing to share your comments for everybody to see, adjust that to everyone. After you've made that adjustment, go ahead and just type, here we go, type an emoji into the chat that describes how you are feeling about the remaining part of the school year, because we're right up on the edge. Share an emoji in the chat that expresses how you're feeling about the remainder of the school year. A couple of those really made me laugh out loud. The truth in humor sometimes is equal parts pain and joy, and there were some funny ones that made me laugh. Anyway, thank you. All right. Well, as I mentioned, today we're going to be discussing and modeling really some ways and some examples of specifically teaching skills of resilience. And so we've got a couple of great panelists on here. I'm going to introduce 3 panelists I'm not sure if our third will end up being able to join us or not, but I want to give him a proper introduction in the event that he's able to. But the two that we have on is we've got Miss Ashley Wright, school counselor out of Texas, over 16 years in the field, based in Houston with Conroe ISD, dedicated the past 6 years to serving as a certified school counselor and licensed professional counselor, recognized as a 2022 American School Counselor of the Year finalist and 2021 Texas School Counselor of the Year, transitioned from elementary teaching to school counseling. Passionate advocate for diversity, self-esteem, character building, and resilience, firmly believing in the boundless potential within every individual to affect positive change. Ashley, welcome. By the way, Ashley, how's life in Houston today? Do I dare ask?
It's flooding. It's chaotic, it's just Texas weather for you. 1 minute it was hot, now we have severe thunderstorms and it's flooding. Where I am locally, our river is at max capacity. So it is the craze. I think it's like the end of the school year. Welcome to May. Welcome to May. We're gonna go out with a bang.
It's amazing how that works, isn't it? Well, so glad that it worked out for you to be able to join us. I know you had a lot of legitimate school emergency stuff happening today, and so it means a lot that you made this work to join us. Thank you. Next, we've got Jennifer Kortsky. Help me with the pronunciation of the last name. I always get it wrong. Kortsky.
Yep.
Thank you. I want to make the G a harder G than it actually is.
Yeah.
Jennifer is a seasoned licensed master social worker with 26 years of experience as a school social worker in Michigan, specializes in special education across elementary to high school levels, implementing programs such as YTRI and Resilience for Youth, certified as a trauma and resilience trainer and a leadership trainer in effective practices. Jennifer's work emphasizes collaboration with educators, parents, and staff to foster robust social emotional development in students. Welcome, Jennifer. So happy to have you back. This is a second timer for you as well, right?
It is. I got to talk with Ashley last time, and back in 2020, I was one of the fangirls watching when you guys first started. So I was so excited last time too, because I was like, I've seen Ashley. She's like famous. She was on those webinars. So I really think YTRI webinars at the time is what got me through 2020. So thank you for doing them.
I love it. Thank you so much. And then I believe he's trying to get in. I'm just double checking. Yeah, it looks like we're doing double duty, a little bit of tech support here. Our third panelist, if we can get him in, is going to be Gerald Robinson, current administrator. Mr. Robinson serving as the restorative practice coordinator at Doral Academy of Nevada, and is the co-founder and president of Creative Restorative Practices Services. Rich background in social work since 1991. Gerald notably contributed to the Clark County School District and State of Nevada Division of Child and Family Services, licensed social worker and educator, deeply invested in child welfare and restorative practices. Gerald is also a proud UNLV alumnus, former Rebel football player, and enjoys family time, particularly supporting his sons. So hopefully we'll be able to get him in the room here shortly. Okay, so with that, let's get to talking about it. I'm going to send out, sorry, I'm multitasking here. Okay. What I wanted to do is to just start things off. Have you each tell us just a little bit about how you've been using YTRI. I know you all are longtime users of YTRI, but just share a little bit about how you've been using it, what your groups or individual usage has looked like, etc. Anything you feel like would be helpful. And then we're going to have you model how you teach some of the skills of resilience, which I think will be really fun. Let's start with let's hear from Ashley first, and then Jennifer, and then if Gerald hops on, we'll get Gerald as well.
All right. So I have been using YTry since my very first year of school counseling, actually. And so that I became a school counselor back in 2017. And so like it is just kind of, Jason knows, like my baby of all things. What I love about it, like most curriculum, like there's so many things that are put out there. And I, talk to Jason and his team all the time about just different curriculums that, meet the socio-emotional, needs of our kids, of our families, of our staff. However, what I love about YTry in itself is that it is an approach and it's a process. It's not, I mean, even though it's like the YTry program, but it's more than just a program. It is a process of being. It is a process of coping when life gives you just those different adversities that you know that you are going to go through in the reality of just your life experience. And what I love about it most is that it lays a foundation for kids to connect and see themselves as humans, but then at the same time, realize their unlimited potential to get past anything. And it doesn't necessarily have to be something always so depressing or so emotional. What I love about the approach in itself is that it can be applied to other contexts as well, like, academic motivation, or like even if it's like, with different peer relationships going on, it can help within the home, like to strengthen the family system, to help you to become a better, connector and better motivator for not only yourself, but, for your siblings. And so it just outpours in so many different areas of one's life that our kids gravitate towards it. I love that it can be taught and extended with just from childhood all the way to adults. Like Jennifer, like when I first received the lesson, I had some connections and I remember crying through the first lesson because I was like, oh my God, like that's my life. Like, this is just so powerful. And I cannot tell you countless of times that when I am teaching these lessons to my students within classrooms, and I'm currently at a pre-K through 6 campus, there has always been a staff member, whether it's a teacher or a professional aide, that said, oh my gosh, I needed that lesson more for me than the kids, because it really soaks up into building, relevance and connection and helping people to understand that there is resilience inside of you. That's the biggest thing. We all have it. We just have to activate it and know, well, what that looks like, what that sounds like. And so if we can continue practicing it, which through the lessons that it provides, that's how we become, masters of just conquering, our lives as individuals. And not even that, like I said, not always in the negative way, but it can also be to aspire and dream big and remain successful. And then also, pour that out into others. So I know I said a lot with that piece, but that is, what I think about the approach in itself is that it is a way of being and it is a way of coping, and it's strengthening and building your character and accepting who you are, and then also articulating and letting that shine as you, move and communicate and build relationships with other people and in different settings. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Jennifer.
Okay. So I am in an elementary, middle school, and high school buildings. And so I think I've used this probably for over 10 years. Back when I first started, it was back when everything was on paper. It was before the computer program. It was all in binders. And it just really hit home at that time. I was supporting multiple buildings and multiple programs between emotional impairment and cognitive impairment programs. So now that we have the computerized program, it has made a world of difference in how I can present it to our students. But I will see students either individually, if there's a situation going on that we need to have a conversation, or I run groups each week. And then I think my favorite way to present is in the classrooms, in our special education classrooms, where the teacher stays and the parapros all stay. So just like Ashley was saying, the adults are part of it too. And then it's not just me having a 30-minute conversation with kids that they don't think about for a week. the whole staff is talking about it, and they use it throughout the day, and it just becomes part of the language of the classroom. And because I've seen kids for a long time, they hear it year after year. One of my students had brought up this lesson. And he's like, yeah, I think I remember that from elementary school. I remember it from junior high. I'm like, yep. But like Ashley, like you said, it continues to grow with us, right? And it's just the stories might be a little bit different, their experiences are a little bit different, but they're applying it all the time. The other piece that I love about it is because it's so based in experiences and the visuals, that sticks with our students. So I had a student the other day that we hadn't probably talked about this one lesson in over a year. I pulled up the picture and he immediately could explain it, and he could explain it to other people, and he applied it to his family and extended family people. So I get really excited about that it's meaningful, and it's some of the things that they actually remember over time.
I love it. Thank you. Gerald, how you doing? Welcome. I just a heads up, Gerald, I introduced you on good faith. I knew you were going to be here, but I did give a formal introduction of you. So welcome officially. Super happy we got the tech piece worked out. And right now we're just I've asked you to share just a little bit about how you've been using YTRI, what your groups have looked like, what your history with it has been.
Yes, absolutely. Well, first of all, Jason, thank you for having me, and welcome to our panelists. Sorry for the technical difficulties, and I'm glad that we were able to get it worked out. I've been trying to log on for the last 5 minutes here or so I'm glad we got it situated. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, I've been involved with YTRI for, I'm going to say, about 12 years. Was trained many years ago as a school social worker, and as a school social worker, I was able to utilize the curriculum in our schools at various levels: elementary, middle, and high school. My favorite opportunity to train students and implement this particular curriculum was with middle schoolers. It's exciting to see them be able to engage with it. Even my high schoolers as well. I will say that I actually recently retired a couple of years ago, and some of my students have reached out to me and said, you know, hey, they call me Coach Rob for many years, and my students know me by Coach Rob, and so they said, Coach Rob, I'm in the loop in the reality ride, but I was able to get out of it, and I want to thank you for that lesson that you've used to teach to us. And so, but yeah, it's been great. Groups have been wonderful, as I usually have. Right now, I'm actually working with an elementary group, as well as I've worked with high school groups as well. So anywhere from 5 to 10 students. We'll talk later about an assembly project that we worked on with a lesson that we utilize. But it's been really near and dear to my heart. Here in Las Vegas, if you mention YTRI, a lot of people are going to say, hey, contact Mr. Robinson. He's been teaching that for years. And recently partnered up with another charter program here, a charter school here, and our 2 counselors are actually getting trained in YTRI right now. So we're really making it a part of what we do here on our campus. And so, yeah, so it's been wonderful. I wanted to make sure I let everybody know that it works, and I can definitely see the benefits from our students.
I love it. Thank you so much. I just realized I never formally introduced myself. I was so so anxious trying to get everything together. Hi, everybody. I'm Jason Johnson. So and listening to you talk was reminding me of my own story. I've been with YTRI for about 8 years. I'm a school psychologist, came from public ed, worked for the largest school district in the state of Utah, and was actually using the YTRI resources. And the way my path crossed with them, it really centered around this topic of resilience. And that'll be a theme, I think, a little bit of some of the things we discussed today, but that was kind of my specialty. I had some research published on the topic of resilience. It was my real central focus as a school psych. And one of the things I loved about using these resources is they were such a practical tool for teaching the skills of resilience. And so I think that will be a good setup for where I want to go now. I want to throw it to our panelists now and give you the chance to cook a little bit and to show how you teach the skills of resilience. So my question for you is, what I want to set you up with is, I want you to tell us a little bit about a concept or a skill of resilience that you like to use, why I try to teach, and then walk us through an example of how you use the white tri metaphor to teach that concept. And so let us see and hear a little bit about how you talk about it. I think it's really useful. I always learn a ton hearing from other practitioners talk through how they explain some of this stuff. So I'm really excited to see what you've got. Let's go in the same order. Let's go Ashley, then Jennifer, and then Gerald.
All right, this is like my most favorite part because I get to be / teacher as Jason. So one of the things is when you're looking through the curriculum, my counseling partner, and I don't know if she's on here, shout out to Rachel if she is watching, is that we do a needs assessment really just to see like what our campus needs, like where the kids maybe, you know, having some challenges in different areas, whether it's social emotional, whether it's academic development, or whether it's college and career readiness, because you want to make sure that, you know, whatever skill of resilience that you are teaching has an actual natural benefit to what the students can really thrive on and use, because, you know, data is everything, right? And so one of my most favorite lessons is some feedback that we have received from teachers and students through surveys in regards for academic motivation and perseverance. What does that look like? What does that sound like? A lot of kids just, you know, feel unmotivated, feel that, you know, just with, you know, creating goals, sometimes they can get overwhelmed because just, you know, the different stressors that are happening at home, at school, and with peers are so, you know, heavy that it's just hard for them to reach that mountaintop. And so I speak about mountain because recently YTRI has integrated all of the elementary lesson plans. I'm an old head. I love all the old secondary, but this one was such a huge metaphor that I'm going to share with you today. And it has been such a blessing to my students and staff about, you know, you can achieve anything that you put your mind to by utilizing desire, time, and effort, and what that looks like. You got to want it, you got to put in the time for it, and you got to push through it. But as you know, when we're talking to kids about this, it's very abstract. Kids need to see visual representations of what that means. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you my screen. And Jason will go ahead and speak so I can make sure that y'all see it. And hold on.
Yep, looks good. I see it.
Oh, okay, hold on, wait a minute. I probably should have put it over here, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this. Okay, can y'all see it now?
Yep.
Yay. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to walk through this fast, but as always, if you have any questions, let me know. Can y'all still see it?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So also whenever you're using any of the resilient lessons, I like to put Bitmojis in it, like to create a message, create a theme to get the kids excited on that we're about to go through this metaphorical journey together to help strengthen you, you know, whether you're at home, at school, or with peers, but specifically with this particular lesson, it was about pushing through. In the state of Texas, we have STAR testing. So we always do this one right before desire, time, and effort, because it's that final push, because you're so close to, you know, ending the school year. You're so close to just that little wiggle room just to take this one last assessment and get to that mountaintop. And so we know that it's hard, but we're gonna, you know, take you through an experience where you can identify your strengths, your abilities, and really kind of have the skills needed to make sure that you get to the end goal that you have for yourself. And so we've done this with 3rd through 6th graders. It's called Desire, Time, and Effort. And so walking through this particular lesson in the beginning, I'll show kids and I say, I want y'all to just take a look at these pictures, right? And they look incredible. How many of y'all have ever visited a mountain? How many of y'all have seen this, like maybe in movies? Like, and of course, I allow time for the kids to like really look and see and chat. And so you've got a couple of hands raised. And so I'll pause at this last picture and then I'll quickly go back. And I said, now I'm going to go back through them quickly. And what were some things that you noticed? And this is where I allow them to turn and talk, and they share with their friends what they've seen. So then when I receive feedback, a lot of them will tell me like the people look happy. I'll ask them like, how are they feeling? It seems like they made it all the way to the top of the mountain. I love, hold on, where is it? Yes, this picture. I said, how do you think this guy is feeling? And I love to use like language arts term, like, what can you infer from this picture just by seeing it? They're like, oh, he looks happy. I'm like, yeah, he's taking a selfie. Like, I did that. And then he's also showing what's in the back of him. So I'm pretty sure he's really, really excited. And after, showing them these pictures, and they're like, yeah, I'm like, mountains are so big. Can you just imagine like just the different mountains in our entire world? They're so tall, they're so high, you have to have like a lot of equipment. Like you really got to be in the right mental space to get to the top of these mountains. But here, these people did. And so then I go into showing them these next couple of pictures. And I said, what do you notice about these? Because these are tall too. And they're like, really, Miss Wright? They're buildings. I said, yeah. Yeah, look at that guy. He's just kind of looking down. They're like, yeah, I don't get it, Miss Wright. And I said, okay, these are buildings, they're high. And so one of my questions is that I posed to ask them, I said, how do you think you get to the top of these buildings? Because these are not like mountains, so how do you think you get to the top of these buildings? You'll hear certain responses from the kids. They may say like, oh, you can just get on the elevator and just go straight to the top. I'm like, yep, that's true. Or some of them like, you could just take the stairs and go to the top. Yeah, that's true. And so then I just dig deeper and I said, I always tell the kids, I'm going somewhere. I really need you to pause and just think for a second. Which is easier do you think it is to accomplish to get to the top? Climbing a mountain or going, up to the top of a building. And hands down, all of them will say, well, going up to the top of the building, you can just jump right in and just go all the way at the top. And there is where I say, yes, even though buildings are beautiful, right? And, they have different levels and heights, but when it comes to buildings, they're more structured in a way to where they have all of these like I like to say easy resources to get you all the way to the top. But a mountain, what do you think that you have to do when you're trying to climb a mountain to go to the top? Is there an elevator on a mountain? No, Miss Wright. Are there stairs on a mountain? No, Miss Wright. What do you think you have to do? You're going to have to climb. And I'm like, yeah. Do you think you're going to have the right tools and equipment? Yes, Miss Wright. Yeah, you do. You got to have grit. You got to have the right mindset to do it. It's a lot harder. And so showing them that, and I said, I show you these two pictures because that is what happens in our life, that sometimes we come across things that are really, really difficult and hard, like mountains. And then there are some times where we come across things that are like buildings where it's just like, boom, straight, we get what we want, that instant gratification, it's easy and we're there. But what we're going to talk about today is, Ms. Wright, how do you get to the top of the hard, those mountains that are like some of our challenges in our life that are really hardcore? And so then I start to give the example, like I noticed that this year, it's been really, really hard to push through these assessments, really, really hard to concentrate. Because I know y'all probably wish like, boop, I could just go to 6th grade. Like there was a magical elevator button and there I am, but it doesn't work like that. Going through the motions of the school year, getting to that next grade level can sometimes be like a mountain. It's so scary at first, but if you act and you use strategies and you have the right tools, just like those other climbers, I guarantee you can get to the top of your mountain, AKA the end of the school year, and feel so successful. And then I'll ask them this question. I say, how many of you are ready to find out all of this juicy information? And they'll get excited because they know like I'm going to take them on the journey. So when we go through the first part, I show them the first part of this journey is just getting ready, right? And so the question is there. I love Y-Tri gives you lots of different processing questions. I mean, I love their curriculum because you really can just flex things and pose different questions and mix things up. And so I said, when you're just looking at this picture, they're about to start their journey. what do you think they're feeling? And so the kids, they're like, I think they're feeling happy. I said, yeah, you can tell, look at him. You know, he's smiling, she's smiling, he's pointing at the top. He's like, yes, I see it. And so then with that piece, and I said, this is the picture, but I want you to connect this to your experience right now in the school year. It's like the beginning of the school year. You were like, yes, I see sixth grade. I see it. I'm gonna get there. I'm excited. I'm ready to go on this journey in fifth grade. Like I'm gonna get to the end, and I'm gonna be feeling really, really great at the end of it, because I'll be one step closer to getting to sixth grade. So we all start our journeys when we have big mountains. Most of the time, we may start them really excited, like I'm ready for this. And I said, what else do you notice that they have? Do they have their materials ready? Do they have their equipment? Like, yes. So not only do they have their mindset ready, but notice she got a walking stick. She is prepared. She's got her backpack. They're dressed appropriately, like all of the things. And we are the same way when we start the school year, right? So as we start the school year in August, we're like, yes, we're moving and grooving, right? And as we're moving and grooving, sorry. Okay. A couple of months in, and for my educators on here and administrators and Jason and the rest of my panelists, you know, when we start to get into October and get into the move and groove of things, and we start getting these new concepts, what do you think starts to happen? Oh, we start to get frustrated. We start to get nervous. So I said, just like in this journey, look at these two climbers. Wait a minute. In the beginning, they was all happy. They was looking like, we're gonna get it. We're gonna get to the top of the mountain. We're excited. But what's happening now? What do you think they're feeling? Of course, the kids will respond that they look scared, like she looks scared. One one of my students said that he looks frustrated, like, man, like I shouldn't even just started in the first place. And I said, how often do we feel like that too? Right? Sometimes we can get so excited about something, but then the minute something is happening or the minute something is in the way, we start to, you know, feel discouraged or we start to get frustrated. I also let them, I said, notice what happened in the path. And I like to go back. Sorry, I get really excited. I know I'm talking really fast, but I like to go back. Notice the path when they started. Stick with me. It was clear. It was clean. It looked like, hey, we good. But notice the path now. We got some logs and some sticks in the way and the rocks. We have stuff coming at us. And so I like to tell them that that's the reality, which I know later we're going to go in a preview lesson. I said, here's the reality, the realness of life is that we don't control the things that come at us. Some things change. Sometimes the curriculum and the assignments are hard. Sometimes we got home issues. Sometimes we got peer issues. So when that happens, we kind of get ruffled. We get scared. We get nervous. And just like this young man here, we want to turn around and look back. And I let them know, I hope y'all can see this because my Zoom thing is in the way, but I tell them that this is the discouragement zone. When things start to get hard, things start to get complicated or chaotic, or things come at us, sometimes we want to turn around. We do. We want to stop and just be like, oh, but it is in that moment, in the discouragement zone, that is where you have to find that inner strength within you and figure out, what can I do differently that's going to help push me forward? So we talk about, okay, these two climbers, they look really, really frustrated and they really look like they want to quit. What should they do? And so I let kids talk. What should they do on their journey of this climb? They say, maybe they should sit down somewhere, or maybe they should get a drink of water, or maybe they need to eat. Maybe they need a rest. There's another Why Try lesson, Jason, that's called Getting Plugged In. And so I circled back that lesson. I said, what have I told you when you get overwhelmed, when you get overstimulated, or when there's too much stuff going on because you're using all this energy? What do we need to do? Ms. Wright says we need to and they'll say charge. Yes. I think that they need to recharge. Another question I'll pose is, if they recharge, do you think they would be able to continue going? They say yes. So once I can help them to understand that, I said, well, look at that. I think they did a little recharging. I think maybe they took some deep breaths. Maybe they encouraged each other. And so now, because they are feeling better, their mindsets are ready. Now their actions are going to show in a more positive light. So how do you think they're feeling now as they're traveling? And so they look at her and ooh, yeah, look at her. She feeling determined. She like, I'm going to finish this. And look at him. She's even leading the way. I like to have this piece of it, Jason, that I teach kids. I said, notice who was starting at the beginning. It's kind of that, and that's another resilience lesson with Geese, with the other part of the Watch Our World, resilience for youth. I said sometimes we can let others take the lead and we can follow behind when we are weak. He started first, but guess what? She's starting now. And that's okay. When our friends want to help and they want to take the lead and they encourage us, sometimes it's okay. It's just like with a flock of geese to fall in the back. And so now that they're feeling well and prepared, they can keep going, which is called the accomplishment zone. Because now they know, hey, I'm getting closer and closer. So we then just went from August to October. Now we're in the spring semester. We're in February and March. We see the end of the light. We see May, right? We know that if we push through this test, keep doing what we're doing, we're going to succeed. And lastly, it's just in itself, I said, well, they have made the decision to keep going. They recharge, they feel rejuvenated. And so they've made it to the top of their mountain. How do you think they're feeling? And that's when the kids, they say, they feel good, they feel great. And I said, and I also, and I'm going to unshare this for a second so y'all can see, because I get really passionate and I'm done with this, Jason. I said, also, it is for your understanding that you guys are also in the accomplishment zone right now. And so you just need to understand that you are in the accomplishment zone because you are no longer in August. You have made it all the way to April when I did this lesson. That means that you are this close to getting to the top of the mountain in May. And just looking back and saying, man, I did that. I've accomplished so much. And so this is like one of those powerful lessons to show them the strength of their resilience. And I said, and the reason why you were able to be victorious in your mountain is because you wanted to succeed. You had that mindset ready, right? Okay. And then you put in the time to do it. You didn't keep looking back and to go back. You did look back a little bit, because you're like, maybe, I'm not going to finish, but you chose to keep going. And then you pushed in that effort. And that's what it's about when we are having like those mountaintop moments that seem just like unbearable and that we're not going to reach it, that you can empower within you the strength to continue to push on. So I know I said a whole bunch. I hope I didn't go over time, Jason. But I also showed them a little Kung Fu Panda movie, which is really has a small clip, and you can find it in the Watch Our Lessons. There's a Chinese proverb that says, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is the present, and that's why it's a gift. So you got to focus on your right now, because your right now will help you get to your future. You can want that future. You can have the desire for the future, but what are you doing today to get one step closer to that? Okay, sorry. That was really
I love it. Round of applause for Ashley. I'm motivated. I'm ready to cross the finish line. So you really highlighted some of the things that I think really resonated with me as a practitioner trying to teach resilience. You highlighted the power of visual metaphors. We use a lot of visual metaphors. And then I'll share, after everybody's gone, just a few pointers as well for how you, like, really things you could do to teach any type of skill of resilience, but specific to the YTRI resources. But awesome job. So if I have it right, you were using that to teach kind of the combination of academic motivation as well as not giving up until we reach our destination, accomplish our goal.
Yes. Yes.
What a great lesson on resilience. Jennifer, you ready?
I am.
So tell us about a concept or a skill of resilience that you like to use YTRI to teach, and show us a little bit how you do it.
All right, is our screen working okay for you?
Yep.
Screen share. Okay. So a lot of times I'm talking with kids about decisions that they're making or goals that they're heading to. Usually I give this lesson at the beginning of the year. It's kind of one of the first ones in the YTRI, the reality ride. I'll show that to you. But this year I've actually been doing it in the last few weeks, and it's really been hitting home, because right now when we're in that final stretch and spring is completely in the air and everything else, right? And behaviors are high and stress is high and all that activity is going on. I get lots and lots of crisis calls. Things are going on in all the buildings everywhere. So this idea of I can make a choice in my life and I can have a say in the goal that I'm heading to, and I can find a better place, better way to do it and stay on that better track, has been really used. I've been using it so much. It's been really useful lately. So this is when I introduce to groups, but then when I have students that are struggling with a specific behavior, I might get a call, out of the norm, that something is going on. This is a really good visual that sticks with them. So what I'll do is I'll show, when I first bring it up and talk to the kids, I have the picture of the roller coaster, and I start asking them, have you been on one? What's your favorite roller coaster? How do you feel about them? For me, it's been a hot minute since I've been on one, so they think that's funny. When I talk to them about, the last time I was at Cedar Point, which was our closest one in Ohio, what rides were there then and what's there now, they think that's great. So they can tell their stories about what they like and what they don't like. I show this little clip, and it goes through, and I ask the students to tell me what emotions they see. So I'm going to play like the tiniest piece of this just so you can get an idea. And usually I have them shout out the faces, the emotions that they're seeing. He's going up the hill, right? Can be excited. Even my lower elementary kids love this part. And they love at one point, the dad says, we're almost done, and he's totally lying. They've got a whole long way to go. But the kids get excited and they talk about how scared they are and how much, they love roller coasters or hate them. And I bring it back to our picture and we start talking about how is life like a roller coaster? And they've always got answers, whether it's my little second graders or my high schoolers, especially the middle schoolers, like you said, Gerald, right? They're super excited. They love to give their examples. And I hear things like there's ups and downs, there's bumps. We talk about the twists and the turns. At middle school and high school, I throw out the word drama, right? Because there is always drama in those grades. And sometimes those are loops and twists that we get stuck in. So what I use this for a lot of times is that social emotional, because in order for me to see students, that means they're in special education and they have IEPs and the goals. This goes right along with all that SEL piece of decision making and self-awareness and self-management, but you can also tie in the social emotional relationship skills or social cues. So that's really nice. We can do this. The other piece that I love using this for too is I might walk in a building and I'll usually check in with the teachers before I see the kids. Is there anything I need to know? Anything I need to talk to them about? For this particular lesson, they can throw a whole bunch of things at me, whether it's about hygiene or the students and their behavior with their peers, or if kids are getting sassy or they're struggling with their work and trying to keep things, get their work done, or, sometimes bigger behaviors. We can use the same analogy across the board, which is really, really helpful. And I can even do it in the same conversation with a group of kids. So whatever they're bringing to the table, we can work with. I'm really careful, of course, if it's a group that we don't get too deep into their personal specifics, but they can apply whatever we're talking about. And a lot of times I will use myself as an example because that's an easy way to get it started and they find some humor in that. And then it's a little less scary to talk about their loops and their crashes. So just like a roller coaster, the goal is hopefully to get to the end of the ride safely and with some kind of a smile going. In life, we want things like opportunity and freedom and self-respect. Those are really big words, but I use them even with my first, second graders. I start with freedom and talk about what do you think that means? And we talk about how that means having choices and having a say in my life. The high schoolers get real excited about that. And they talk about things like being 18 or being 21 and getting driver's licenses and getting, to move out and all of these pieces, getting jobs and making money. So that's a really great piece to get their input in their words. Opportunity are those chances. I use my daughter as an example. Don't tell her I use her as much as I do. She's 16 and she's a junior. So she's at the point where she's starting to look at the idea of colleges and which ones she would like to go to. And so she wants those choices and wants those chances. And so we talk about, the road to get there can be really hard and you've got to do the work, especially to get that piece of self-respect, which I think is one of the most important ones on the sign, is that you've got to respect and like yourself. If you want other people to do it, you've got to do it. So I talk a lot about that in depth, especially with the high schoolers and middle schoolers, that we have to like ourselves and value ourselves. That's super important. So that harder but worth it path right down the middle is the straightest way to get to your goal, but it's hard. And the kids know, they talk about all these ups and downs. One of my middle schoolers said, yeah, you get these expectations and then you're just disappointed. So they understand it. They live it every day, right? And sometimes we make choices that we know the path we need to take, right? But we don't always do it. Sometimes there's an easier way or a faster way or something that looks a little bit more exciting, and we kind of take some risks, and they don't tend to go well. We end up crashing. We end up stuck in a loop over and over. I'll use some simple examples at first with kids, like some of the choices we make all day, like getting up in the morning and am I going to get to school on time? Or for me, I'll say, do I get up early so I can go to Starbucks, which is kind of a critical thing for me? Or do I not? Do I stay in bed too late and then I'm stuck? And then what am I going to do? It's going to be a bad day. And my kids know how much I need the coffee and they can tell you how much I've had. So they're really funny. They're great about that. I'll use examples of paperwork that, on Sunday, I really should have done about a ton of work and I didn't. And so then I crash and I get stuck in this loop where you feel guilty and stressed. And we can apply that to all of their different situations. But I think the biggest piece on here is that support structure. And let me show you a little bit about how we talk about that with kids. Don't judge my drawing or my penmanship. If you can look in the middle, over here are those supports, the thing that looks like a waffle. And the kids always get to it. This is the support structure. This is the stuff that keeps the roller coaster up in the air, right? And we start naming and they talk about their family and they talk about their friends of support. And I'll say, what about in a school? And then it's the teachers. Eventually they get around to saying me, which is pretty good. I'm always like, I'm right here, you guys, come on. So I appreciate that. And you can kind of see how I set it up, whether I have technology or not, we draw it. Those are kind of those pieces that we talk about. Oh, why try? Again, just like the other analogies, has all of these huge pieces. And let me just shout out one of these strategies along with Why Try. They give you learning activities. This one is a great one I did with kids. They just write 3 sad things, 3 happy things. And it doesn't have to be deep, dark secrets. It's just, some pretty simple ones. And I tell them, I'm not a teacher, so I'm not worried about spelling. Just give me 3 things. And so I'll do examples. I'm kind of seeing the middle where I accidentally started a fire in my kitchen last year. And then I got hit by a deer. That one was not my fault. And then we talk about some happy things, some sad things. And then we mark the things that we had some kind of influence on, even just the tiniest piece, where a decision we made could help us be on the better track. And so the fire, yeah, that was me. The deer hit me. That was not my fault. It was in the side. There was a policeman watching. It wasn't my fault. But the kids like those stories and they share. They always share. Even though I tell them they don't have to say it out loud, they always do. So the concept that they have an impact in their life and which track they're on. And the biggest piece is that if they're on that harder track, if they're stuck in a loop, they can always get back on track. One of my 2nd graders was super proud to tell me, I did this thing, but now I am back on track. And I love that. So that's kind of the heart of the lesson, but it connects with all of the other ones. And we can go back to it on the fly. And I love that my kids can explain it.
I love it. Thank you. Give Jennifer a big round of applause. That was awesome. So you're using that to teach the skill of resilience of decision-making and self-awareness kind of, and the decision-making has such broad implications. I mean, you can, like you said, you can apply that literally to every academic, behavioral, personal area around. So
Yeah. And that we're not our decisions, right? We're bigger than our decisions. We can always fix things.
awesome example. Well, I'm super excited to hear from Gerald. I visited with Gerald last week and he was telling me a little bit about a recent experience he had that I hope is what he'll share with us today, but it sounds awesome. Gerald, tell us a little bit about a concept or a skill of resilience that you use, Why Try to teach, and walk us through what that looked like, how you did it.
I'm gonna make sure I unmute so you can hear me. Can everybody hear me loud and clear?
Yep.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you for the opportunity and wanted to be able to share, as I've been working with Why Try, as I said, for over a decade now, I presented it in multiple different ways. I tend to bring in my personal experiences with the curriculum, which really ties in the students. And so recently, the school that I'm partnering with now, Durrell Academy, it's a charter school here in Las Vegas, and we have pretty much built a framework for restorative practices. Many of you probably heard of that term. We're on our second year with restorative practices here. So we're just mainly trying, our first year was to build relationships with our students and our staff. And our second year is to really kind of attack harm and find out how can we repair harm that's happening on our campus. And so one of the things that came up mid-year was that as we were doing restorative harm circles, connection circles in our classrooms, centered around restorative practices, we saw this theme that was coming into our restorative practices office, and that was labeling issue. We were dealing with a lot of labels on our campus from 5th grade all the way up to 8th grade, and it's a K-8 school. And so what we decided to do, I shared it with one of our administrators, and I said, you know, one of the lessons that YTRI teaches is a labeling lesson. And this is what we're seeing that's coming in our offices. And we're having to repair a lot of harm with racial slurs, homophobic slurs, any slur you can think about, we've heard it. And we've had to repair harm in restorative harm circles surrounding those labels. So we said, you know what, it's time to now do a school-wide labeling lesson. And so our administrator said, we're going to put the schedule together, and Coach Rob, you're going to have the floor to be able to teach labeling to all of our students from 5th grade all the way to 8th grade. And we separated the assemblies. So you can imagine we had probably 6 or 7 assemblies throughout a 2-week period, because we had all the 5th graders together, all the 6th graders together, all the 7th graders together. We didn't mix them because we wanted them to know that we needed their help. We needed their help to stop this labeling issue. And so what we did with the labeling lesson is we started it out generally similar to what I was trained on. This might be an old analogy or metaphor, but I love it. I still use it, and I also utilize the elementary piece as well, but I wanted to share this with you today. And so as we look at this piece, you can see that we mainly started out with, as the facilitator, I'm up in our multi-purpose room with over 100 kids, and I got the microphone, so they have to listen to me. And so I got them fired up and riled up and said, hey, listen, I hear 5th grade's the best class in school. Is that true? That's not what 4th grade told me. So we would get them fired up and get them going and started in a positive way. And so as we proceeded with the lesson, we went ahead and began to tell them that we have a major crisis that's happening on our campus, and we need your help. We have an issue that's taking place where we're starting to see a lot of labeling issues. And so as we go through the particular slides, we had our students to define. I said, when we put the labels up, we said, let's talk about these labels that you see on the can. And we had it on a big screen in our multi-purpose room, and our teachers were there in the back listening. Our administrators were there. We even had some guests from other schools come and watch and listen. And so as we went through it, we basically set it up and said, we've experienced a lot of harm and a lot of different labels that are taking place on campus, but let's share something with you that I want to share with you today, and you tell me what they mean. And so as we went through the labels, as I back up here, we started to discuss them one by one. And I said, can I get someone to define what rebellious means? What is that? And then one kid, I'll run over to a kid and they'll be, oh, well, that means you're not following the rules. And so we'll go into the next label and we'll say, well, what does LD mean? Anybody want to take a shot at that? And believe it or not, that label has been in our office. Another student teasing another, oh, you're LD, or you're L. So we're telling them it's learning disabled. That's mean. And so we would go through the labels as they're circled here, and we'll say, okay, well, what does juvenile mean? And we'll define it in liar and attitude. But if you have an attitude, what is that? So we went through all these labels, and then we started to set it up. And we paused for a second and we said, along with these labels that you see on the cans today, we've also heard some other labels that have come into our office where people's feelings have been hurt. And then I talk to the 5th grade and 6th and 7th grade as I'm going through, and I'll tell them, 7th graders, can we really talk? Let's be honest and let's talk, because we need your help. And we tell them that we've heard some tough labels that are not listed here. And I want to let you know that as an African-American male standing up here in front of you today, I've been called the N-word when I was in school and I was your age. And it hurt me so bad. And I would tell them how that made me feel. And so I had to set it up for them to let them know that this also happens to other people. And I would go around the room and I'll say, what labels have you heard that's been used on our campus? And I had them to really talk. They started to talk about because the Jewish war was taking place, and oh, you were a Jew, and then they would say, you know, oh, well, you're autistic, and and kids were very transparent. And I'll be totally honest with you, there were tears in the room. Every assembly, we had some students that became emotional. And so as we started to talk about these labels, we set it up and we told them that this has got to stop. This is mean and it's hurting our campus culture. We need your help. And so as we set it up and we got them to be very emotional and we started to talk about negative labels, and we then said, okay, now, why should we believe in these labels? Why is it easy to give up when you have a label? And so I remember in my training years ago, we kind of paused on the word lazy. And then I would ask the question to somebody in the audience, and I'll say, have you ever been called lazy before? And they'll say, yeah, I have, Coach Rob. And I'll run over to them and I'll say, who called you lazy with the microphone? And they'll say, my mom and my dad. And I'll be like, no way. Your mom and dad called you lazy. And so now they're laughing, because remember, so we started rough and then we started to have a little bit more fun to ease the message. And so we said, okay, well, why is it easy to give up on that label? Why is it easy to believe that you're lazy? Why are your parents are calling, well, I didn't clean my room, or I didn't do the dishes like I was supposed to, I didn't cut the yard. And I'll say, okay, listen, don't let anybody ever call you lazy, because you're not lazy. You are worthy. So you need to be able to stop living up to that label so people can stop calling you lazy, right? And so we started to move on in the lesson. And then we said, well, let's talk about the real you. I got a series of questions I want to ask you. But before we do that, I went ahead and did the tomato sauce activity. I don't know if you guys remember that from way back when. I know I was trained in that. And so I had to find a larger can, because when I'm with a smaller audience, I just have a small can. So this is the big can for the assembly, right? So I was able to find this can, and I obviously I would walk around the room with the microphone, and I had them read the labels that were on the can. And the students were like, "Oh, okay, well, it's tomato sauce. So what do you see in this tomato in this can? What is this? Tomato sauce. Go read the label." So I had about 3 or 4 kids, tomato paste, ketchup, this in there. And then I'm walking, and then as I was taught in the training, I found the kid with the white shirt on, and I was walking toward him, and I would trip, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, Starburst came out in the can, and they're like, "Oh no!" And they started cracking up, right? And then they started searching for their Starburst. And so I said, let's talk about this. You thought that was tomato sauce that I spilled on you, but those were Starbursts. And I want all of you to know, when you were called a label, do not believe in that label, because don't judge a can by its label. Don't judge you. People don't know what's in the inside of you. And that's what I had to live by when I was growing up as an African-American male. I knew I was a star waiting to be burst out. And that's what you are. And so we would set it up and we say, okay, let's talk. Let's talk about the real you now. Here's the real you. let's answer these questions. What do you like about yourself? And I would go around to someone and I'll say, wait, before you answer that question, can I tell you what I like about myself? And they were like, yeah, Coach Rob. And I sit there and I'll tell them, I'll say, well, I believe I'm a handsome young man. I think I'm a handsome guy. I like to dress nice. I like to coordinate my colors. I like to look good. So I like that about myself. What do you guys think? So they started laughing, and I'll go over to them and I'll say, well, what do you like about yourself? And they'll say, well, I like that I'm a good brother. I like that I'm a good sister. And then I'll tell them, what do others like about you? So we would answer those questions, and then I go into, what have you accomplished? And I look back, and then I would refer to the teachers in the room, and I'll say, do you know your teachers have accomplished a lot to be here? They graduated high school. They have a bachelor's degree in their field. They have a master's degree. And so do I. I've accomplished that. But what grade are you in? You're in the 6th grade right now. Well, all of you accomplished the 5th grade last year, right? You have that in common. So we would set it up and tell them about their accomplishments. And then we talk about their strengths and their goals. What do you want to be? And I was a college football player, and I tell them how, I knew that I was good and I accomplished some goals to go to college. What are your dreams? What is it that you want to become in life? And they would talk about their different careers and what they would want to be. And then we go into, if you had to label yourself, what would it be? And it must be positive. And then we would go into, I'm a good friend, I'm a good student. And so we would set the scenery up as we would go through the lesson. And it was powerful to be able to go now and be able to have an opportunity to tell them, we have to stop this crisis that's happening on our campus because all of you are stars, and these labels have got to stop. So let me share 4 steps to tearing off your label. And then we go into it and we ask them, how is your label working for you? If you're being called lazy, you have to think about it. Now you have to change some of the things that you're doing. What labels do you have that are getting in the way of your opportunities? And we talk to them about, they would even say when we hit this next question, you have to do something different. And I remember one of the kids, we said, well, what behaviors do you need to change? And they would say, well, I need to stop talking in Miss Jones' class. And Miss Jones would be standing in the back and she'd be shaking her head, And so we go into the next questions. What do you need to stop doing that's not working for you? I need to start studying more, Coach Rob. I need to start studying so I could get better grades on my tests. And so we tie it to school. And if you want to do something new, and then we go into it, if you're doing the same things, you're getting the same results. And so we break it down and talk about focusing on their strengths. And this is where I would pause and I let them know, I say, you see Coach Rob walking around campus, do you ever see a frown on my face? And they know that I'm always the one that's either giving them a fist bump or a high five. I don't walk by one student, one parent, because this is how we build relationships. One of my fellow teachers that's in the hallway, good morning, how you doing? And I'm always a smile on my face, even if I'm in a bad mood. Once I hit campus, it's like, gotta show that light. And so they know that Coach Rob is always happy, and they know me as the fist bump guy. And so, and I tell them, I say, Coach Rob is the happy guy. He's the fist bump guy. And I said, you know why people call me that? And I tell them, I said, you know what? I want my label to be seen by everyone. I want to be called the happy person. I want to be called the joyous guy that's on campus. And that's the label that I project out every single day to everyone on campus. And so they started to understand why we do what we do. And so as we continue to move on and close here, I tell them, if you want to repeat what you're doing right, remember, it takes time to see you change. And I tell them to stop this crisis that's happening on our campus and the labeling issue. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to stop overnight. We have to take baby steps toward a solution. This is a start, and we need your help. And so we would go into it, and then we'd end basically by telling them, every night, we want you to go home. What is it that you can do to tear off that label? If you've ever been called a negative label, what is it that you can do? And then we go into the positive self-talk and some of the other analogies that are explained in the White Tri lessons. And once you figure out that, how can I do more of that every single day? And so it's a summary of the lesson. I just thought it was fitting. Next year, we're going to do a school-wide defense mechanisms lesson that we've decided as a team already that we're going to do next year as a school-wide assembly. And so the lessons are great. I truly adore them. I'm glad my other two staff members that are part of our restorative practices team, they're getting trained this year in the curriculum, and our entire district now is aware of White Tri, and we're real excited about what it's doing for our kids, because I've seen it happen to kids that are now adults with families, and I'd share with them that it works. And so I wanted to stop there and go
Awesome.
ahead and turn it back over to you, Jason.
Thank you so much. Give Coach Rob a big round of applause. By the way, Coach Rob, I'm ready to jump in and do some Oklahoma drills for you now. This is fantastic.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I love that you every presentation today was awesome. Coach, I love that you were really responding to a specific need in your school, and you took kind of a unique approach in saying we're gonna take this a grade at a time. And that's a really broad and really bold way to approach it. But I think it's just awesome, and an awesome example. All three of these side by side of being able to see just some really flexible ways of teaching the skills of resilience. You can go one-on-one, you can go small group, you can go large group. And when you're combining visual metaphors, processing, etc., it's awesome. I want to just highlight, I know we're out of time, but I do want to share this, and then I'm going to give one last question, a brief question to close on. When we teach, these are the three main tips that I share when I train individuals on teaching the skills of resilience. This is what lines up with the White Tri approach. And I think all three of our panelists modeled this today. And you can use this with anything. You can use this with, anything beyond White Tri, but this is very specific to White Tri. Start with a picture, with a visual metaphor, some image that is meaningful. Take that and then know what your key concept is. And in this case, all three of our panelists had their example directly connected to some key concept, whether that's academic motivation, decisions and consequences, or a restorative process of responding to harm that's occurred to labeling. So start with your picture, know your concept, and then make the process engaging. And magic can happen when you create a space where people can respond through open-ended processing questions. It's a great place for people to really learn and apply these skills of resilience. So great job, panelists. Couldn't be happier with everything that you shared. So here's what I want to conclude with. By the way, I'm going to excuse Ashley. So they really are experiencing flooding there in Houston today. And they're closing down school. They're shutting down the school today to get kiddos home. And she had to go help with that. So she probably won't be able to respond to this, but I'll set it up. We'll hear from from Jennifer, and then Gerald. And my question is this, and while you are speaking, I'm going to put up a loop with contact information for our panelists. If you have any questions you want to direct directly to our panelists, they'll be happy to hear from you. But the question is, the year's winding down. Just give us one highlight of the year or something that you're proud of from this school year that you're happy about. Let's go, Jennifer, and then Gerald.
Okay. I have a number of seniors this year that I am so thrilled are graduating, and they're getting there. And one of my seniors sent me an email the other night just sharing and reflecting on all of the things and growth he's had over the years that I've known him. And I think that's probably one of the most meaningful things I've seen all year. It's just a tremendous feeling to see our kids apply these concepts in their life and actually reach goals.
Shout out to those seniors that you're helping get across the finish line. Like Ashley said, you're helping them get to that mountaintop. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Rob.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much. And, I was thinking about that question as you were asking it. And I have to think about, we have a group of students that are leadership students here on our campus. And there are 6th through 8th graders, and they mentor our younger kids as well as students in their same grade. And so we've built a component with our restorative practices program when we do have harm circles when students have a conflict with each other, we involve one of the volunteer, we call them peer mediators, and they're the ones that would actually refer to the Y-Tri lessons depending on the issue. And they'll say, part of the solution, Coach Rob, I think maybe we should talk about defense mechanisms, or, this student's struggling. And I have all of the analogies hanging up on my wall in my office. And so they can refer right to the analogy. And so the fact that they may not have been through the curriculum, but because they've heard how we teach it, surrounding a solution and a harm, they can refer to a lesson. And that was just powerful to me. And so this year was very unique, and we're just basically looking forward to growing with that particular concept next year as well. So I wanted to share that with you, and that was on my mind.
That is awesome. I love it. I'm going to just put a stake in the ground right now. I want to hold here within the next few months, a webinar around restorative practices, Gerald. I'm going to reach back out to you because it's something that I think is really effective, is really needed. And I think a lot of people could learn. We've had a couple people on of late that have been really, really effective with it. So great. I love it. We're shouting out our seniors that are getting across the finish line. We're shouting out some restorative practices and kiddos applying the concepts. Here's what I'm going to shout out. This one's a personal one. My second oldest is gonna graduate. My second oldest son. He had a great senior year. Played basketball. Came back twice from tough injury, and he's gonna make it across the finish line. And I'm a proud dad right now. So super awesome. Huge thank you to all of our panelists. I've got a QR code up. We'll send you out some sample resources, similar to what Jennifer shared today, some of the Reality Ride resources that are a really fun, easy way to jump right in and start applying this model. Also, as I mentioned, if you have any questions for our panelists, please reach out. They will be very happy to hear from anybody that might have questions or want to follow up on anything that was brought up. A huge final round of applause for our panelists, and big final round of applause for our attendees. Thank you so much for showing up and always making the